RPGaDay 2026, Day 22. The Slade enjoyed the sun, not in the way he did before he had embraced death. He enjoyed it now because he felt the sting. For some time, he had felt nothing from the sun. A strange condition for a vampire. He had hypothesized it was proximity to the star that fell. Then he noticed during a battle, he seemed to be doing less harm and not getting the same energy from hitting his opponents. So he had Vulgus move the castle away from the hills where the star hit. Now he felt the sting. Soon he would no longer be able to stand in the sun. The sun itself shone brightly every day. The clouds of the region seemed to gather elsewhere at the peaks to the west. He suspected the fallen god in the castle there had something to do with that. He was torn. He'd rather been enjoying his incredibly enlarged, more star power results, he thought, rhino pet every day. Perhaps a little star energy would be a good thing, the equivalent of those humans getting a tan. His minions, scattered throughout the region, reported a giant eye had taken over the city of Pittsburgh, and it had its own array of followers and creatures that it had influence over. So moving the cloud castle into the area might be opposed. And with the other clouds mostly converging on the mountains, it would be hard to be inconspicuous. Alternately, he could remain here, above the forest, near the road, with his ogres and highwaymen. Secure control of the main route to the mountains. Charge a toll. Raid convoys. Offer escort past the creatures and forces in the fallen city in return for a piece of the spoils. And even if the dukedom followed through on the rumored creating another route, avoiding the wastelands that the star was burning into the landscape, his kingdom could adapt, reposition like no other could. He had only to continue to hold sway, continue on with his repeated councils with the Vulgus and the Ogre Chief and the brigand leaders, ensure that his influence was ongoing and effective, and over time, perhaps add more. Maybe even the star-soaked beings could fall sway to his charms if he kept some of its energies in his own form. The main thing was to continue with what he had, so that the otherworldly beings in the region didn't believe that they had total sway. His greatest concern, and perhaps the one he could use as a offering of alliance to others, was that the giant eye in the ruined city had its own monstrous animal companion, and that one was engraving complicated arcane symbols into the landscapes. And from his time perusing tomes of forgotten powerful knowledge, and treating with wizened sages, told him that if this creature continued what it was doing, it would summon something greater than the extraplanar beings that already seemingly infested this area of this dukedom. Perhaps this eye was unaware of what was going on, merely enjoying the antics of its own mutated pet, the way he enjoyed frolicking with his own rhinoceros. But he was confident he could find ways to make this threat known to others, to raise an army against it if necessary. Yes, he had been frightened when first the gloom that often infested this region was not present, believing that he would be forced to remain indoors during the day, and later becoming even more wary when he felt that his own undeath might be fading. But there was no reason he could not continue as he had these many decades, amassing power and wealth, amusing himself as he would, and slaking his own hungers when he chose. So that's the vampire, the leader of the last faction that I've talked about in these last few episodes. Looking at the fact that I rolled him up as a magic user, former magic user, and that the action was that this faction was doing was warning about a pet, I thought he would know what the many-eyed porcupine of the beholder is up to, attempting to summon Yog-Sothoth. And it also jived with me that the morale of panicked and the complication of overcoming darkness had to do with the effects of the exposure to the star when he was nearer to it. And the advantage of positive vibes is him, turning that frown upside down and renewing his own efforts for power, control, wealth, and knowledge.